Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is, and wherever you are listening. Joined with me, as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
Cheers. How are you?
I'm good. And Jamie Page.
How you doing?
What was that, Jamie?
I have no idea. I'm
Okay,
trying to be
that's
like
fair enough.
Chris.
Sets the tone. Sets the tone early, as always. I say this a lot when we have a guest on. Not every time, admittedly, but I'm going to say it this time because joining us this week is Ed Lawrence. Good evening, Ed.
Hiya.
How you
I'm
getting?
getting a bit of echo. You guys getting that?
No.
No.
You got anything on the side there, Ed?
Let me just check my background. Sorry to ruin your intro.
That's okay.
It's all right. It's normally Richard that does that.
Yeah,
Ed, we're quite used to it. Don't worry about it.
yeah. I've got you back there, Ed. Honestly, I do. I say this a lot when we have a guest on that I have been excited and I've been waiting. But genuinely, Ed, I am absolutely mega excited because I've been watching your channel quite closely for 6 months now, maybe
Oh, wow.
4. You know, I mean, lockdown, COVID, bored. You know.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
no,
well, there's a high
Why
freaking compliment to
so
give the
special,
guy.
Rich?
no.
Richard.
In all seriousness,
Ed, if you want
I
to leave
think
now,
it
go ahead.
was-
It's okay. It's all right. It's fine.
It was a long story short, as Chris will no doubt be pleased to hear. Through COVID, through various things, and because I'm self-employed, I was a little bit like, what can I do to get me through COVID? And I decided because I couldn't go out and work, I was going to make a bit more effort on my YouTube channel. So I started learning more, watching more, being introduced to more. And it was your channel, I think both of your channels, because you've got 2 channels at least, haven't you?
I do, yeah.
And also Alan Spicer. I think I found him through stories, and there was this kind of, you know what YouTube's like when it just starts throwing stuff at you.
Yeah.
And I saw a couple of your videos, and I just came away just grinning and laughing and just kind of refreshed because not just what you were talking about in your videos, but the way you present it and your kind of style. I mean, no doubt everyone listening has heard of the big sort of names in YouTube channel-y type stuff, but you kind of approach it in a different way, a more kind of edible way, if that
Is that a pun on my name?
it deliberately
Yeah.
wasn't meant to be, but
There you
it's
go.
more. It's for me personally, it's kind of refreshing because obviously you're in the UK, aren't you? Is it somewhere down Hertfordshire way?
Yeah, Hertfordshire we're based.
So maybe for me it was a little bit more digestible than perhaps this kind of, I don't want to say over the top, but more boosted Americanism sort of channel. And obviously the channel your size. And it was a few videos in that I learned that you're not just a how to grow your YouTube channel, but your business is video production, and that's what you do. So before we'll do the sponsors at the end, I think, or towards the end, because we're going to dive into this and people want to know. But do you want to just tell us a bit about your background and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I left school after A-levels, which is like before uni in the UK. I was the only person in my year who didn't go to uni. The school were outraged. They called my parents in and said, "You've got to go to uni. It's a waste." It was that era where everyone thought uni was the thing you had to do. And I started off a lawn care company called True Green, which you guys in the States might have heard of. It's like a franchise.
Oh, yeah.
And they were silly enough to give an 18-year-old a franchise, which was odd. But I ran it for 10 years and I grew it, and I loved doing the work. I just hated my clients. I'm not afraid to say that. Some of the things they said to me and the way they treated me, it was just horrific. But the business was quite successful, and I managed to sell it after 10 years. But I got to the point where I was like, I've got 3 options here. I shut it completely and just lose 10 years work. I try and sell it, or I keep on, employ someone. And weirdly enough, I was going to start a YouTube channel about it because I'd always loved making videos as a kid. But yeah, I was lucky enough that I found someone to buy it, and then that gave me the cash to basically do whatever I wanted for a few years. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I used to play with GoPros and make videos when I was a kid. And I went to a very pretentious beach club in Marbella with my GoPro on a selfie stick, which back then wasn't acceptable. My friends called it the nerd pole, and they were really embarrassed. And I was running around talking, filming myself. And I made this video, and I popped it up, and the club found it, and in about a week, it picked up 13,000 views.
Wow!
And I was like, I enjoyed that. I thought, well, I might just do that as a business, and I'll just start making videos. So I did. I just went and bought all the kit. I'd never used proper cameras before. And that's what I did. I just faked it and said, I'm a video producer now. And I started networking and just learning via YouTube how to make videos. And at a networking event, I met my business partner. And we were going to crowdfund a short film he'd written together. I'd had some experience in sales and marketing and so on. And the whole point was we were going to make a YouTube channel about how to make films, but also the business side. So that was the thing. And we started vlogging in front of this plain black background. And we were like, oh, this looks quite good. So we took it networking and just threw business people in front of it and started getting them to present and things like that. And our business appeared. And that was 6 years ago. I think we've lost count now. We went over 10,000 videos produced for companies. We have a host of them all on, but they started charging us differently. So we've had to delete them. And that's what happened, really. It was always based around getting people in front of the camera. But unfortunately, over time, we realized it's actually very hard to sell that. And most people don't want to be in front of a camera. And the business kind of went more to a traditional, boring sort of corporate video company, which neither of us wanted to be, but the money just dragged us there. So our YouTube channel was kind of our thing where we were like, look, we want to keep teaching people how to be on camera and make videos for their business, because that was our mission originally. We always wanted to help small businesses with their marketing and their content creation. So we started our YouTube channel, and that was 2 years ago. And we just said, let's do this for 10 years with the aim of, in 10 years' time, hopefully the people who have been watching us, who we knew were going to be about 25, would be in decision-making positions in businesses to get us in to help with marketing and so on. So a long-term strategy. But that's kind of my story and how I got into YouTube.
I mean, I was going to say earlier, actually, I mean, 10 years, I mean, I barely think 10 days in advance some weeks, but that's quite a long-term kind of time bracket. But of course, it sort of makes sense because you make a start up front of where you think something's going to go, and then you're getting into it. Like you say, you've got an idea where you want to take your business, and then maybe the money drags you off somewhere else. At least you've got a plan. I mean, how many? 7 years I've been doing YouTube now, and literally up until probably the middle of last year, I didn't really have a plan. It was just, I'll do videos when I've got time to do videos, and I just plop out videos every so often when I can. And unsurprisingly, nothing really. I mean, the channel's grown, and I'm still proud of it, but there's always in the back of my mind, and I don't know if Jamie and Chris might think this, or anyone else listening, if you don't want to make it that little bit better, then in my opinion, it doesn't matter what you're doing, it's not worth doing. But you've got, direction. You've actually got an idea of where you want to, at least from what you're saying and the way it comes across. And I guess in business, that's half the battle. It's like, yeah, I can do that. That's no problem at all. Just pay me and we'll sort the rest out later kind of an attitude is a lot of people's business. But you genuinely have a kind of a direction you want to go. Yeah,
it's a direction, but it's no means staying in the same direction as I thought it was going to. So originally we were like, let's try and get production company business from this. But of course, most of our viewers are in California, so that's not going to work. So we were like, okay, that's fine. There's lots of editing services, training. There's lots of things we can offer. But straight away, of course, in my head, I'm like, there's loads of people in the UK, but really 30% of our views are from America, and then India, and UK's fourth. And that straight away gives a problem, but it's not a bad thing by anything. Because if you grow a following within your niche and you've got a product or a service or a business around it, you can adapt to that. So it was never a thought of 10 years is too long. What happens if things change? I'm hoping things do change. Like, you got to be prepared for them. We can take an educated guess.
Well,
but I think,
it's like, and Richard, to answer your question that you had mentioned when you mentioned Jamie and I think it just depends on what your goals are. I mean, because everybody always wants to better themselves, and that can't be argued, because you're always looking to do better for yourself. It's like I'm trying to remember there's an old phrase that says something about nobility isn't being better than your fellow man. Nobility is being better than your former self. And so it's always about trying to do better for yourself and better yourself, and that kind of makes the whole competition about don't don't try to compete with other channels. Compete with yourself. Just make yourself better, and it will make you better. Yeah, obviously.
Well, in theory, as long as you always try and get better, you should.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and what Richard was talking about, everybody always wants to make better. Well, it depends on what your goals are. I mean, I don't look to make millions of dollars on YouTube. I look to make better videos for myself. It's something you go into it and you're using an iPhone on a rickety tripod. It's like, you want to do better than that. It's like, eventually you start growing into it. It's like, and that's been my goal. But I mean, I'm not very ambitious when it comes to this world. So that's why I'm going to shut up now.
I think you definitely need a goal for this. There has to be a goal at the start, because without, and even like you said, even if it's just to make better videos, if you don't have that, it's too much work.
Yeah,
you'll never make it, because you've got to put yourself through so much. You've got to be a videographer, a writer, a presenter, an editor, a graphic designer, a strategist. Analyze data. And there's like 8 or 9 jobs you have to do. So it means you've got to learn 8 or 9 jobs. And without a goal, it's probably not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly have found in the last... I mean, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was how the last 12 months has kind of affected you and that 10-year plan. I mean, for me, I couldn't work because we all had to sit at home, and my work involves working in people's houses. So to start with, hang on, what are we going to do? And that's when I sort of sat around, as I've already said. But I mean, has COVID and did 2020 have a positive or an adverse effect? I mean, if you've got clients maybe, or potential clients in California, presumably you were still going to video chat with them anyway. So has there been a...
If I'm going to analyze it, I don't like to say it, but it's positive, because obviously it's been a bad situation for everyone. But what has come out of it is only good for us. But also there has been an incredibly stressful and rubbish side to it. So, we find out one day the whole world's going into lockdown, and we were on the cusp of having a record-breaking month, which the year before had been very slow. The whole Brexit uncertainty had really slowed things down. So we were like, oh, cool, this is getting so easy now. And that just vanished. And, there's generally the 80-20% rule with businesses. It's like 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your clients. So we lost all those big clients who basically keep our business running, because they were all based on location filming. So that went. Yeah. So, we kind of thought that was it. We were like, this is... we probably last a few months. We stopped paying ourselves for a bit, kept the guy, someone we employed full time. It's like, let's just keep paying him, and let's see what happens. And YouTube kind of saved us, really, because all that happened was a new 20% of client appeared that would never have found us without COVID, because they were suddenly forced to looking online, and we just happened to have been there. So, we had a really tough month. And one client came in and kept our business running for 3 months because they discovered us on YouTube. So the business has been like this, where like some months have been huge and some have been scary, but it's actually worked out okay. Like, we haven't grown, but we haven't gone backwards. So that was good in that, we were set up for online. We all work remote. We have a studio. None of us go to it unless we're filming. And then also what's been great about it is, like, I don't do face-to-face meetings with clients in the UK, and they don't like it because they want to meet you. But 80% of our face-to-face meetings used to cancel on the day, and sometimes that would mean my whole day is gone. Because
why would people do that?
Camera. So we actually made it a policy that we would no longer meet face-to-face with businesses. So we'd actually been doing Zoom for years. So one positive is no one really wants a face-to-face meeting now, or probably will do in the future, for something that can be 15 minutes on Zoom, because no one has the time to waste, And then the other side to it is it gave me a bit of time to focus on YouTube more. So I've definitely spent more time on it. And actually now I'm full-time on it, because the marketing that had been done beforehand is working to feed the business, which was my role to grow it. And then the work's getting looked after. So I've set up another little side business. And then my girlfriend lost her entire business from COVID. But we switched that to online. And she is technically a yoga influencer. So she had 60,000 followers. on Instagram. We got that to 210,000 now, and
Wow.
her revenue's up 570% just doing online. So
Wow.
on that side of things, it's completely transformed her life, going from literally having everything gone to 6 months later. She's never done better. So there's positives. But the one thing that you said a minute ago that kind of makes me think is, what's going to happen when we go back to normal? You know, you mentioned that traffic's up and, you know, you were looking more. Part of me feels like we need to prepare for a little bit of a slowdown from what's been positive. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I mean, from my point of view, from the sort of the business side, I think from what I had gleaned, because contrary to popular belief, I do occasionally prepare for the show, and that I don't do much of it because it kind of makes me feel like some kind of psychological thriller and stalker person that's going to end up with Rebus knocking on the door any minute. But I think I'm in a very similar position to you, because I've got my business, my trade business as a carpenter and whatnot, and then I had the YouTube side, and overnight it disappeared. Now I'm in the position where I can work. I exactly the same as you. I had one customer that basically kept that business going to keep it afloat. Do you know what? I hadn't actually thought about this, you know, prepare for the slowdown, but I think for me, I am in a slightly different boat to you, in so much as YouTubers for me has always been that sort of rectifier, because you know, as you well know from your lawn care days, that cycle of customers coming in and out is very up and down. So you get the good month, you get the bad month. You're always trying to balance the two off, and YouTube has always been kind of to balance that out. So you've kind of got me a bit freaked now.
Well, I don't mean from a business point of view. What I was thinking more was eyeballs on content. So for me, I know our clients are desperately waiting to come and shoot. They're not sitting there going, we're cutting back. We continue getting messages being like, we do want to film, like, can we film now, and all this sort of stuff. Which could be good, because then we'll actually have, you know, a whole new set of clients working with Resistance. What I was thinking more along the lines of, like, I'm working with some influencers at the moment that have 0 followers on TikTok before lockdown. They now have over 300,000.
Wow,
Just
that's
and
mad.
I'm working with them because the problem that shot up is influencers, whatever you want to call them, have appeared out of nowhere. There's a girl around here who just started skipping on her Instagram.
Yes, they're amazing, those videos. They're absolutely, they appear in reels every now and again. Like, wow.
But she's, you know, and there's a lot of people who have appeared, and this wasn't supposed to be something that was going to turn to a business. So imagine how long it usually takes to get to 300,000 subscribers, right? People have systems, processes, business offers in place. These guys are like, oh. And my concern is more when that traffic slows down and they haven't got the systems and processes in place, you know, are they going to miss the biggest opportunity of their life? Or, you know, and how are they going to react when suddenly they're not picking up 50,000 subscribers a month? Because, you know, it happened in the 20s, the roaring 20s, the whole thing was after the Spanish flu. Everyone went crazy, wanting to be out and about, hanging around with people. And are we going to see that again? Which will mean that view numbers potentially and the growth period, and that's going to be painful.
Just because of behavioral. Just because
Yeah.
people are going to behave differently. You know, I mean, you lock me in a jail cell, I'm not running back to the jail cell anytime soon. I'm not running in the park. So, I mean, behaviorally, people may start using what they've been forced to use less. I mean, it just makes sense.
When my views start going down, I'm going to start opening up Kinder Eggs.
Is that what the views are in now? It's like that kid that's like the highest paid YouTuber in the world, and he's have you seen him? He just opened.
Yeah, I've seen of it. I've heard seen of him. Yeah,
but I don't think it shouldn't be a massive concern. I just think for anyone, especially new, who's enjoyed the boom of basically there's loads of traffic. You know, Virgin internet was up like 90% at the start of our lockdown.
Wow.
So, you know, that if you make stuff, you get more views. And that's probably going to slow down at some point.
Do you think, though, that mobile traffic will in some way help to kind of buffer that? I mean,
people are always going to want to be on their phones and stuff, and they're not going to go out every night and so on. But at the moment, what we've got is, I don't know about you, but like I kind of dread the weekend. I'm like, well, I've got two choices: I sit and do nothing, or I do housework and DIY jobs that I don't like doing. You guys probably love doing all the DIY jobs.
Yeah, absolutely.
it's all
I
right.
live for it.
But it's like, oh, and then Monday comes, it's like, oh, cool, I'm going back to work. I kind of make myself have time off so I don't get burnt out. And from speaking to people, it is like evenings and weekends are kind of boring at the moment for a lot of people, and their time is taken up on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok, and when the weekend comes, I will be going back to my lifestyle of hitting the pub every Saturday.
That's my boy. That's my boy right there. I automatically love you. All right, cool.
I wonder if there's going to be this sort of people, instead of watching TV, people just sitting on their phones, and it becomes the new, you sit down around the iPad, or you sit down in front of your phone rather than the TV. I
mean, I do that already. Like, I know a lot of people do. So my YouTube is my main source of entertainment. I have football on, soccer for you guys in the US, and that's on in the background. It's almost like radio, and a lot of people do that. I'm just not that entertained by Love Island and all these other TV shows that some people like. So there's always going to be mobile traffic, and there's always going to be people who have discovered new creators who keep coming back. But I just can't help but think we need to prepare ourselves a little bit for slightly less views once the world goes out.
I mean, that makes sense.
Just that.
That makes sense, because then people are still going to have their phones with them, and they're still going to be doing it like they were before. And it's like, yeah, but I can see a little bit of a bump there that goes down. Sense.
What else are you going to do on the toilet, eh? You've got.
Well, yeah.
Or in the hot tub.
I can make a suggestion. There's routing and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sorry.
Richard's got a channel. That's good for the toilet.
Read the Daily News, or what is that newspaper you guys have over there that has the page 3 or page 5 girl? I mean,
the Sport.
Yeah, you can always read the Sport.
Richard told me.
Yeah. And just you glance and then you move on because you're married and you don't want to get in trouble.
Sports still exists. I didn't even
do we have page 3 girls anymore?
No, I
don't think they allow them anymore.
Yeah.
That's God. What a shame. I never even saw one, but I just like the fact that you had one made me kind of envious. I was like, okay, that's
a bit odd looking back at it now.
That's just it was actually kind of funny. Samantha Fox was actually a page 3 girl, but whatever. Anyway.
So I mean, talking of humour and things being funny, but Chris mentioned another one that sort of attracted me to your channel was your sense of humour. You absolutely take your videos, for me at least, in a completely different direction to the mainstream, if you want to call it the mainstream. I mean, things like why on earth would you make a video in your hot tub in your dressing gown? Well, I mean, what thought process? Because I know you plan your videos out, and you love your sexy spreadsheets and all the rest of it. But what point does your brain go, bathrobe? Yes. Yeah. How does that work?
That was a happy accident. So basically, I love marketing. I love YouTube. I find it fascinating, the psychology, measuring all of it. And I'm well aware that the average person finds it boring, right? So you guys are probably quite interested in YouTube and the stats and the thing behind it. But a lot of people who come into like the business side of things aren't. And it's kind of a thing they have to learn about. So what do? You've got to make it more interesting for them in some way, shape or form, because not everyone has that passion for your content. And to me, just trying to make it more interesting or slightly different will help do that. And it's more engaging too, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm in a niche with like Nick Nim and Darryl Leaves and these guys that have been doing it for 10 years, and they've forgotten more about YouTube than I know. So how do I stand out? I cannot give the insights they can. But what I can do is try and take information that I do have and then present it in a way that's slightly different to them, that maybe other people more like me gravitate towards and helps me stick out. I know for a fact some of the things that I do that are a bit more surreal, people unsubscribe or the engagement crashes because maybe it's the wrong audience has discovered it, and it's some of the stuff's quite surreal. So the hot tub thing you mentioned about, I basically was wearing a bathrobe for an entire video, and I needed to be tongue-in-cheek and playful because the topic I was covering was basically about how you get lied to in marketing pretty much every day. Basically, what happens is you will have a massive publication write an article. They won't, the stats they include in it are often made up. You get told this by people who work for the companies that do it, and they just publish it. And because they have such power, they rank on Google. And then what happens is their fake information becomes the truth. So it was kind of a pop at what I'd been finding out about these things. And it's like, I don't want to be seen like the negative guy. I've got to make this more fun and tongue in cheek. So, I just popped on a bathrobe, and there was supposed to be a scene in my hot tub, but it was pouring down with rain. So I cancelled that. So I just ended up wearing the robe for no reason throughout, basically. But it sort of paid off.
It was actually a really good point you were making, though, about, they tell you all these facts and figures, and this is what you should do to get this many hundreds of thousands of followers or subscribers or whatever the metric is you're after. But then they just forget to tell you about, I do this and I do this, and this is how I did 1 million subscribers in a month. But they don't tell you about all those outside bits of tooling that they've got at their disposal.
Yeah, so it's the idea is like, look, this is how you pick up. This is how I picked up, so one particular person's, I won't name them because I don't want to get into like, some people love this person, some people don't. They will say, I picked up, let's say Clubhouse comes out, and they say, within a week, I picked up 1 million followers. You've got to get on it. It's the biggest opportunity. But they don't talk about the fact they already have 20 million people following them on their website and their email. And what happens is their content creates FOMO. So it's all about getting people to click on it and interact and have this fear of missing out. And they create that by saying, wow, look what's happened to me. But it's like, you should know that that's happening to them because they have such large followings. But you also forget, and they, like, one person in particular really pushed TikTok when it was early, and that's fine. They didn't say like, go and test it, try it. It was like, you've got to be here, you're missing out. And then, Trump turns around and goes, no, TikTok's going, India gets wrong. And I just thought, if TikTok had gone, how many millions of pounds worth of time would have been wasted from people listening to this person and jumping into something when their intention was really just to get more reach on their content rather than actually provide information that would have been useful, because most businesses shouldn't be on TikTok. You can go on it, it's fine, but the audience on there is a lot younger, and there are now it's developed, but back then it wasn't, and it was an unknown, and it was a risk to say if you're not on there, you're missing out. The message should have been, test it out, see what you think. It's a big opportunity, but it's not right for everyone. But who's going to click on a caveat, So, I have some problems with certain things that get said, and I don't think people pull people up on that net.
When you actually sit and think about exactly what you've just said in that detail, even if you only pick half of them, it all completely like, oh yeah.
So one thing you have to think about, right, is this person's core message is to make a lot of content. So they're constantly telling small businesses they need to make insane amounts of content, right? And when you look at the golden rule for content marketing, it is make content for the people you want to do business with, right? So it's like attract people who are going to give you money. So what happens is you can't always do that. So you have to attract the mass audience and hope that there's some of the right ones in it on an epic scale. So this person's minimum offering to do this service, which they promote at scale to small businesses, is $25,000 a month minimum, right? So they're only after those people, but yet their message, which is to only really going to work for people who can afford $25,000 investment a month, gets taken as this is what we need to be doing. And small businesses and small creators suddenly have this tremendous weight that they need to be doing all of these different things because someone with a giant following who's only trying to attract 10 massive conglomerates who can afford them, and it all gets mixed up. And yeah, that's something I struggle with when I see it, and you can't call them out because you get attacked by the fans. But it's right.
Yeah, I mean that is actually the danger I've found, and I'm sure everyone else listening as well has found with being on YouTube. There's as soon as you kind of put that video out, your head suddenly sticks up above the parapet, and all of a sudden there's a lot of potential incoming from the trolls and all the rest of it. Have you found? I mean, I've had my share of it over the last few years. I know Jamie's had a couple in his time. I'm sure Chris has. But do you get the old? Where do you get off telling me how to grow my channel when your channel is kind of...
yeah. I get trolled once a day minimum.
Really?
All sorts of things. Yeah. It's stopped as much. I used to get a lot of comments like, how can you tell me how to grow a channel when this video only has 500 views or something, right? Or 20 views or whatever it is. I don't have the time to explain that in 6 months' time that video will have ranked in search and will probably picked up 10,000 views. And it's just a case of misunderstanding. And you know what? They're kind of right. At the end of the day, if you're new to YouTube, I'd probably trust someone with way more views than someone who didn't. But it's often because they don't quite get it, and they have an opinion and they want to state it for some reason. So
is that sort of everyone's got to start. I mean, you mentioned Nick Nimmin, you mentioned Daryl Eves. Their channels. Yes, they start channels and they know how to play the game, but they know how to play the game because they started at a particular point. But people would dream of doing. I mean,
it would be unhealthy to only have 5 people in one space, right? You've got to have new people coming in all the time. Daryl Eves, for example, doesn't put content on his channel anymore. He's got a book coming out. He tries to, but the man has 17 YouTube channels with over 1 million subscribers each.
Yeah, I mean he's got more play buttons hanging on his wall than I've got windows in the house. It's just
in radio we used to call that cume. It's people visiting you, and it's that mass effect you're talking about. Is you want to get that massive cume into your audience, and then some of them will stick. The majority of them probably will not. But as long as you keep funneling that cume into it, you're going to get those people that stick and stick and stick and stick and stick. And before you know about it, you're going to be talking about retention times, things of that nature. And so you're really building by attracting the masses, even though that's why it's so easy to ignore a lot of the masses comments on videos. Yeah. It's just because you just know they weren't there for you, and it's okay. Bye-bye. I'll talk to you later. Hey, have a great life. We love you. Really, we do. Richard, we've got some serious questions here, and we've got about a half an hour to go. Did you want to get into these, or because they're very specific?
I absolutely did. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say to you, Ed, but I just want to touch on it because I think it will lead into. Because I know one of the questions talks about the sort of that kind of follows off what we were saying about having the channels, but you've actually got a third channel which I have never seen, I've never watched, because you never told anybody about it. This was like an experimental thing for these new YouTube shorts. What about shorts? Do you like them? Don't you like them? I've put a few out, and I've had the please don't do these ever again because I've got an enormous monitor that I paid money for, and I like it to be filled from one of my 20% of viewers that come from computers. But we won't go into that.
Yeah.
How do you? What's your take on shorts?
So shorts, I don't actually know how many people even know these are a thing outside of the people who are already involved in the YouTube community. Like my friends had never heard of them, and they were talking about TikTok, and I said, like, put it on shorts, and they were like, what's that? And then I did a poll a while ago, and something like 20% of people had heard of them. So if you don't know, YouTube Shorts is basically YouTube's version of TikTok, but it's in its very, very, very early stages. TikTok has taken the reins when it comes to an average viewer duration on a website. Many years ago, Facebook was like, wow, they keep their average person on there for half an hour a day or a session, which was almost unheard of because before it was like a couple of minutes. TikTok's come along and the average user is spending 55 minutes a day on it. YouTube's average mobile user is spending 45. So that doesn't take into the desktop consideration, but basically TikTok's winning the retention game because short content is actually more addictive than long form. So TikTok gets banned in India, so that's where YouTube have started doing this properly. The idea being it'll be short videos, you can add music, text, transitions to, and so on. Now, what TikTok has is this incredible sharing community where everyone's getting involved on trends, passing content around, and that's part of the addictive. So it's YouTube's job to try and recreate this, their own version. So it's currently being tested in India. It's a minute, under 60 seconds long. It has to be vertical or a square. And if you want to get involved with this in the UK right now, or America, wherever around the world, you just put #shorts in the title. And then a couple of days after you release it, it has the potential to go on what's called the short shelf, which if you look on your phone, you'll see this little area. And it's where stories are displayed from creators often.
This is on YouTube, though. This is on the YouTube app.
Yeah. So only on a phone, and you scroll down and you'll see this little... You'll either see stories or you'll see what says shorts, and you click on it and it takes you into a completely new viewing experience. So videos under 60 seconds and you basically swipe. So there's no thumbnails, nothing. YouTube just throws stuff at you. There's one there. And then also if you watch a video on your phone, scroll down below the video, you'll find a short shelf there. And what's happened is it's like the Wild West. It's like when YouTube started. Someone will start a channel, put a video up, and they will get 5 million views in a day, because the way YouTube tests this. And what's crazy is it's being seen as this big opportunity for small channels to just blow up. And there are people who have done that, and they're getting like millions of views every little YouTube short they make. So that's kind of the cool side about it. But at the moment, this is being tested. It really is nothing more than just uploading a vertical video. It doesn't have the fun music, graphic, editing system that TikTok has. And it kind of seems a bit weird that YouTube are even letting us test it at this stage, because in India they've kind of got a proper version of it, how it's going to be. And there's nothing to say that they might not pull it. They could just turn around and go, no, it didn't work, get rid of it. I read the other day that they're getting about 3.5 billion shorts views. I think it was in a month, which in YouTube terms isn't much, but actually for a product only in India, it's pretty good. So that's the potential future of the platform, but not replacing video. I don't think they're ever going to push, regular YouTubers out of the way. I don't know how they're going to do it. If it'll be a different app, if it'll be part of it. But I think it could be amazing if you could make a short and then people discover it on the short shelf en masse, and then your other videos get suggested. But there's pros and cons. So to give you an example, my girlfriend read a short for her, and it's actually an Instagram reel we took that had about 250,000 views. We put it on shorts. It's got about 30,000 views quick, but 104 new subscribers. 95% of the viewers are men. Her channel target women. So what's kind of dangerous is the video was in her niche, yoga, but YouTube has displayed it to a wider niche and it pulled in the wrong people. And you can tell by the comments, they're definitely not the right people. So the dangerous side of it right now is it can bring in the wrong audience to your channel because it doesn't seem quite sophisticated enough to suggest the right stuff. It's definitely getting better. And if you watch a short that's below a video, then it's more targeted to that video you're watching. But yeah, I think I wouldn't rush to try and grow my audience at a rate. I'd rush to grow a quality audience rather than super general. And the problem is when you make a more niche short at the moment, it doesn't get as many views, and YouTube stops displaying it in the same way as the general stuff. And a lot of people are chasing that virality, which they shouldn't. I think now is the time to test it and see what your subscribers and your regular viewers make of it and work out how to make it work for them so that when Shorts does become more refined and better at suggesting, you're almost ready to take advantage of that moment. So pros and cons to it. It's definitely something you should test out, but I'd be careful at the same time.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. I mean, I put one a day out for 1 week only in about the 10th of December last year, because I only found out about it at the beginning of December, and like a lot of people, I was like, oh, this is it. This is this is my lucky break. I'll be a millionaire by New Year sort of thing. and obviously it wasn't, and big surprise. But one thing I did work out was exactly what you've just said. It just pushes it out either to nobody or to everybody, and I kind of worked that out from what I was being shown. So I used that opportunity to work out what I wanted to say.
Yeah,
because I think sussed out that there are lots of things that are in my niche that I could deliver as quality information well within that time period.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Because a lot of one thing I think my channel has, in inverted commas, suffered with is when you're delivering information. I've got the information. Bye. Thanks. I don't care about you. And we all do it, whether I do it as well. We know, how do I do this? Oh, like that. Bye. And away they go, and you're never thought of again. And I think actually that's got potential from the niche point of view to be thrown into that, particularly if, like you say, it might go to that completely different app. Potentially, then you're hitting both apps. And even if they bin it, that information on a phone is just as useful, because you pull out your phone. How do I do this? And it's perfect for that. So I think it's got a lot of potential, but I think at the moment I don't think it's very good in what it serves up, because there isn't the content to serve up. So it has to be.
Well, one thing that I forgot to mention is that when you make one, it displays on your channel as a regular video, but also has a chance to go on this shelf item that's called. And you get stats from browse views and search and channel pages separate to the stats that are basically the place where YouTube throws it around like crazy. So that's a good way of doing it now, is measure your success on those stats. Like you were saying, if you want to make a 1 minute video, it's just like a short version of what you've already done, test it to your audience and see what they think. And don't worry about it going viral. Just see if they watch it all the way through, and if they comment on it and engage with it. And if they do, that will teach you something. But one of the things I've really not liked about YouTube is the fact that they went for watch time rather than, to me, viewer duration makes sense. It's like if a video is 5 minutes and people watch it all the way, and then there's a 10-minute one and people watch, 8 minutes, but it's the same information. I don't always want to sit there and watch a longer video. And it's like they really seem to have pushed this watch time thing, which has forced people to make things longer. And our production company was all about making videos that were 2 minutes originally, and our retention rate was always above 80%. And you watch that crash, because I'm always trying to make stuff longer now just to try and get a bit more watch time, which doesn't make sense. So shorter stuff on the platform is going to be helpful, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing Shorts has helped me with, because when you're trying to deliver something in a minute or less, it forces you to be really aggressive with your editing. It's like, how do I do this? You do it like this, this, and this. Done. No elaborate hook at the start, no fancy kind of swooshy intro thing. It's like, so you want to know this, it's this, this, this.
Yeah.
If this is helpful, great. Done. There's no faffing around. And like you say, we've all seen 10 minutes for mid-rolls. Okay. All of a sudden, there's 10 minutes, 5 seconds just to make sure. It goes through waves, doesn't it? You get these people. So everything's a learning opportunity.
I think check it out. If you've never heard of it, go and have a look at it. Google it, learn something about it. I don't know how far off it is getting spread out properly, but Instagram took Reels, which is basically the same thing. And I don't know if you guys use Instagram. If you open up Instagram now, the main button on the page, the one in the middle at the bottom, is Instagram Reels. That shows you how much they're either testing it or serious about it. And I know when I speak to brands are more interested in sponsoring people on TikTok now than they are Instagram. That's what they want to sponsor, because that content's so popular. And they're also very interested in influencers who are doing Reels as well. So brands seem to see some sort of value in that. So that's something else that's quite interesting, is how will that change, because it might not take very long for people to explode and then start getting some nice brand deals come in.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to look at it. Where the brand goes, that's where to be. Because if the companies are thinking that's where we can make money, that's because there's people there. So if you're,
I don't know if it's because they can pay the TikTok influencers get paid less than Instagram influencers, and certainly less than YouTube influencers. YouTube tends to demand quite high fees. So that might be another reason they're going there, is because they get away with paying. I was looking the other day; it's about $300 on one of my clients per post for 300,000. But within their niche, you'd be looking at about $1,000 per post on Instagram, maybe more, probably quite a lot more.
Madness.
That's a lot.
Madness.
Yeah.
So, Chris, have you got the questions up on the screen for?
I do, but
I don't want to leave poor Andy out because he's such a regular inquisitor of ours.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. I mean, we don't have a chance to get to all of them because there just isn't quite enough time yet. So I'm trying to pick and choose which ones are the most
We'll go
valuable.
for it. I can do short answers. I've made quite a few YouTube shorts, so I'm good at refining my answers. If I
right.
need to.
Well, I'll start with what I think is probably more the more important ones, and a lot of it has to do with video creators who are feeling a bit unsure of themselves.
Yeah.
How can makers improve their storytelling?
It's a tricky one because a lot of it comes down to production at the same time. So I think the first thing, and this might sound obvious, is just to have a point. Sometimes, have you ever watched a YouTube video and the point doesn't come very early? And once you've got your point, to find a creative way of maybe getting it across. So, we spoke about it earlier. You can chat to a camera and sit there, but if you want to differentiate yourself and pull a viewer in, then you need to think about ways you can maybe turn that content into something that is more story-based or more entertaining. And often simple things like metaphors are a great way of getting a point across. So, fruit is an awesome thing to have as a physical prop, and you can often use fruit as a metaphor, or an onion is another one that people always talk about because it's got layers. So simply, if you were trying to get a point across and you're like, layer one of the onion is this, and it goes deeper and so on. So props and metaphors will always help you become a better storyteller. There's also the pattern interrupt, which is, you guys have probably heard of. We call it a shopper's pivot. It's something that grabs someone's attention. So it's a jolt. Now, we used to start all of our videos with one of these because we wanted people to be like, what are they on about? I just clicked on a video called How to Upload a YouTube Video, and they're talking about, the Titanic sinking. But that in itself is kind of intriguing to like, what point are they making here? And it helps pull the viewer on. But if your production is more out and about, and you're vlogging, walking around, then it's almost a different kind of storytelling, and it's working out how to tell the story of a day, which often means cutting out plot bit and editing it into a version that's more interesting. So I'd always think, if you're an educator, think about metaphors and creative ways to simplify. If you're about production, then it really is about the story in the exact term story and
Awesome.
And writing and editing to get it across.
I just want to point out that wasn't exactly the TikTok version, but okay.
He does that to me every week, Ed. Don't worry about that.
I'm just kidding.
That was probably the most complex.
No, I'm just pulling your chain here, brother. God love you. I'm just giving you a hard time. All right, next question.
I'm just impressed Chris knows what TikTok is, actually, if I'm perfectly honest.
It's because he watched my video.
Sorry, Chris. Go on.
Nobody likes Richard. I just want to let you. I mean, I've taken a poll, and out of 100 people that responded, 99% said
wanted to hit me with it.
Yeah. What a bastard. Anyway, how can? Okay, this is. I'll let you address this. And how can video creators best find their own voice or style?
Practice, which is a bit of a boring answer, but it's a short one. I think when you start making videos, you've got a lot to learn. A lot of people will try and emulate another creator's style, and that's a good place to start. I'm all for copying, but then putting your own spin on it. But I think really it's kind of the thing that develops over time, and the best way to develop it is to keep trying new things and just maybe not redesign everything, but just bolt new bits on each time and see how it works.
Well, here's how I used to instruct people that worked for me and do it. Is the first, when you start out, you're going to be nervous. And you're going to get through something, and you're going to be kind of jerky, whatever the case may be. And get through it. That's fine. Get it done and produce it. But then the next time, do it again and just do it again. The answer to that, how you find your own voice or style, actually comes over time. And it's nothing more than you getting used to the forum and becoming yourself and talking like yourself instead of like trying to pretend you are somebody else. It's like you find your own voice by being who you are. What main mistakes to avoid for anybody who's looking to start, currently has, blah, blah, blah? I mean, are there mistakes that you see that currently happen and you look at it and you go, man, I wish that guy knew that he shouldn't do that, or this girl shouldn't do that, or, are there any mistakes that you see? I mean, whether it's titling, thumbnails, description, I mean, whatever.
The biggest mistake I see is lack of patience and no goal, basically. So it's people want to get onto YouTube because they want to, it's the gold rush. They want to make ad revenue and all this stuff, but they don't necessarily have a love of making videos or making things or sharing that with others. So that's the first thing. It's if your goal is just, I want to build a business. A lot of people do it and they do it with faces videos and they're very successful, but you need to have a passion and an enjoyment because you're going to be talking about this a lot. And so you need to set a goal of like we did in 10 years or 5 years or 3 years, this is where I want this to get me. And then if you have that goal in mind, you're always going to be having some sort of direction that you can take yourself in. If you don't have that, it's just demoralizing. You're like, oh, these videos don't look good. No one's watching them. And you've got nothing to strive towards that helps make the journey easier. And then the second is lack of patience. And this kind of goes back to shorts in that everyone wants the views, but you just don't want 1 million subscribers who don't care about you. That's just a number below your video. If people aren't coming back and interacting or, wanting to sign up to the things that you do or join your lives or anything like that, then you're not really doing anything. You just got a lot of people who hit subscribe.
It's becoming a paper tiger, basically.
That's it. Yeah. And then I'd also say measurement. I went on a Reddit group the other day and asked a question because I see so many people talk about average view duration and watch times and click-through rates, but they always use the average number. And I actually asked on the group, I was like, I'm seeing this so much, I'm starting to question myself as to what I'm doing is wrong because I don't get any information from the average because my search stats in traffic sources are always completely different to my average or my browser. And based on the individual video strategy, that average stat for that video pretty much is always useless for me. Maybe it's not for other people, but I go on Facebook groups and someone's like, my click-through rate's 5%. I'm going to change my thumbnail. And I'll message them and say, that's not your click-through rate. That's all of your traffic sources click-through rate. If your video is search, have a look. I've got a click-through rate on a video that's like 3%, but its search is 15. And all the others are so low, they're dragging it down. But it works. So that's another mistake I see.
The live, I think it was a live stream you did not so long ago. It was all about which particular analytics are relevant to which particular thing, and I thought I had kind of an idea of each of the and it just blew my mind because I was confusing overall and I wasn't drilling down into because I basically didn't know how to because analytics is boring. I won't bother learning that, and it wasn't until I sort of actually started that video is something, how to do something, therefore I need to get that in search because people were presumably searching for that. So all the information that I'm trying to work out about it is going to be relevant to search, not to everything else. And it's just a confusing thing. And I think too many of those big channels that we talked about, they do that bathrobe video thing and they just kind of gloss over the outside bits because it's content for them. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit...
Well, I asked on this Reddit group, I said, look, it's quite a large YouTube Reddit group. It's only for people in the partner program, so above 1,000 subscribers. And no one really could answer it, what I asked. And I said, why does everyone always talk about the average as if it holds all the power? Because I think it doesn't hold any power. And really, the traffic sources are the power. And great, having a high average is very good, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And at some point in time, it's like this information has been told and got filtered down, and a lot of new people basing all their success and all their stats on suggested views, browse views, search views, channel views, end screen views, when they made a video for search. So they can just discount everything else if they want. I mean, if they want it to do well everywhere, go for it. It's hard to do. But if I make a video for search, at the end of the day, I don't care if it didn't do that well in suggested. I mean, I want it to, But if it's flying in search and bringing in 10,000 views a month, well, that's the only metric that matters. So I'm not sure. I'm generally trying to find out if the average has some sort of power I'm unaware of, because I've never seen anything suggest it does, other than people just point at it.
Well, the average normally ends up being average, and if you hit it right on the nail, then your average is going to be average. So you have to kind of live on the edge, but you've got to know where that edge is that you want to go, and you've got to kind of click it at the right time. There is a certain amount of knowledge and things that you bring into it that can help you align where you're pointing things. But if you're focused on the average, you're going to end up average. That's just common sense. I'm sorry.
It's weird because my average is always wildly different. Because, for example, if I make a video,
then we look at sample size, because then you're looking at the sample size. You're looking at who has seen this.
But I mean, it's wildly different to the traffic source that I care about.
Yeah.
So
okay. There you go.
If I might get really high view duration in search and a click through rate of 20%, but all the others might only be 1% click through rate. So of course that makes your overall average 5 or 6%, where actually the goal you had, you're hitting 20%. And what happens is people change their thumbnail and re-optimize and things like that because they're basing it on the average. So
you end up unoptimizing it.
Yeah, but what happens is I almost did it the other day. I was like, this is doing awful, and I was like, hang on, let me have a look. And I was like, oh, this has a 19% click-through rate in the last 28 days in search, but everything else is dragging it down. I'm just making a video on it, but the average gets quoted a lot, and that's fine if you do. You can grow a channel just by the average, I'm sure, but a lot of people don't target every traffic source, and they end up just demoralized.
I see what you're saying. No, I stand corrected. I see what you're saying. If you're looking for a specific traffic source, then it's important to target the traffic source and ignore what's not coming from that traffic source, and see how you're performing with where your intention. Yeah, gotcha.
That's what got me confused. I started questioning myself.
No. I get it. No. I totally get it. I'm sorry. I'm a little dim-witted.
So what tactics would you? And I don't want to kind of steal your secret formula here or anything, but I kind of do, but not. If you're putting out a video on that, you're right. Here's a video on this topic, and I want it to be a search video. This is where I'm aiming. I want my people to find it through search. What kind of tactics are you going to engage to target that particular source? So what? Am I? I don't even know if I'm asking the question.
Let me give you an example. Right? It's if someone wants to unblock a drain, right, and they search how to unblock a drain, they're not looking for the 5 biggest mistakes you make when unblocking a drain, or this will mean you never unblock your drain. They're looking for something that says how to unblock a drain with a thumbnail of a drain getting unblocked, because we notice, we just want quick information in search, right? So when I make a video for search, it's kind of what I consider. So I just get to the point, make sure the thumbnail is what they want to see, and the title is what they want to see, and then the usual things of YouTube, try and make the retention stuff very good, but also don't waste their time. If it's a 2-minute video, it can rank in search, and if it answers their question. But if you were going for browse or suggested, you need to rewrite the entire video, because YouTube won't suggest how to unblock a drain, because when you've watched that video and you're satisfied, YouTube, it would be bad for them to suggest more how to unblock drains on your homepage. So the results they're getting in search shouldn't really be displayed on the homepage, right? Which is why the traffic sources are important. So if you wanted to get browse views, you'd more need to consider, or homepage views, you need to consider how to appeal to people within your initial audience, the viewers who've seen your content, your subscribers, how to get them interested in that content. So I probably wouldn't make a how to unblock a drain video, but it would be the secrets of drain blocking revealed, something to intrigue.
The 5 best drain unblocking chemicals or tools.
Yeah, sort of. It's a different kind of strategy, but we often want all of it. And my strategy isn't try and get browse, suggested, and search, because it's very hard. And as a small channel, I need just one result, not 3. And as I develop and grow, maybe I'm going to start targeting more browse and homepage views and so on. But yeah, it is different content, and the way you title it and the way you thumbnail it and what that image on the thumbnail is. What works on the homepage doesn't necessarily work on search, and the same way around. And I've got a video coming out about this next week, which sort of shows proof of this and how I think people should consider thumbnails based on some scientific fact, which it's such a long scientific word, I can't remember how to say it, so I'm not going to say it.
I want to see the outtakes on that video then.
Something phenomenon, yeah.
You've actually made me doubt myself completely, because I'm literally pivoting my channel back to its original sort of topics, and that is all search. It is all, when I say all, it is vastly down to how to do this with this particular item. So now I'm doubting myself because you said it's really hard to rank in search.
it's no, it's fine. How to do this with this item is fine because it will still be a search term. But what people tend to want is fast growth, and you get the fast growth through suggested views and browse views, right? It's like 70% of views are from YouTube showing it to people, and are people looking? Are they more likely to click on a how-to versus, because when you're on the homepage, you're competing against Mr. Beast, you're competing against PewDiePie, all these massive creators. So you've got to take that into mind with how you present your content too.
Ed, you know what? I got to tell you, my friend, we could go on and on and on, and we would love to have you back if you'd be willing.
Yeah, without doubt.
Yeah, sorry, I was rattling on a bit there. That was
no. It's fantastic, but we have to forego a couple things that we normally do. But Richard has to give our sponsors some love, and then I'm afraid we're going to have to say goodbye. But I would seriously like to spend another hour with you, my man.
No worries, I'm happy to come back.
That'd be great.
Wow. Chris, did you hear that? You can't edit that bit out. It's our first guest that's ever said they want to come back. Quick.
And if he says no, we'll just keep sending it to him.
Yeah. Or I'll just re-upload this episode next week, and no one will ever notice.
That's it.
Let's thank the folks who support us, and then thank Ed, and then get out of here.
Yeah, well, I'm going to thank Ed twice because honestly, I'm absolutely convinced. I've had a massive eye-opening session. I'm sure our listeners have as well. And as Chris has already said, we'd love to have you back. And if you're not already a watcher of Ed's channels, plural, and you do want to kind of improve your own stuff, then honestly, go and give it a look and fall down that rabbit hole willingly, perhaps even take a sandwich and a flask of drink. But until next week, I better thank the sponsors. I'm all out of kilter now. I'm all flustered. Oh, there's a blush.
I can do it for you if you'd like.
Yeah, go on, Chris.
The Makers International Podcast has been brought to you by Yorkshire Grit, the Wood Turners Abrasive Paste. Wood Turners Abrasive Paste. See, I know I'm going to mess that up. Okay. The Makers International Podcast has been brought to you by Yorkshire Grit, the Wood Turners Abrasive Paste, Highland Boxes for all of your resin and hybrid pen blanks and knife scales, Mancrafting for amazing customizable powder-coated Yeti mugs, and by Harnell Media for their website development and hosting services. For more information, go to www.makersinternationalpodcast.com and click on sponsors.
That was massively more professional than my feeble attempt that I do.
You should record that, Chris.
Yeah, can we use that every week just as like a soundbite, and then you just chuck it in the edit?
No,
save me kind of butchering it every week.
No, I much prefer you looking like a fool.
Mr. Cute, come on down.
Yeah, that's probably. I think a lot of people would much rather that as well. But so a massive thanks again to you, Ed, for coming on. Our listeners, I'll shout a couple out. There's been loads tonight. I think people have been coming out of the woodwork. We've got Brian Hartwood Turning, Wayne the Wood Turner, Maple Tree Studios, the Beard 16, Louis. I did see our good friend Kazam Hussain, whose name I got wrong as always again, and obviously Andy Pugh as well. So thank you for listening. If you are still listening, if you're not, we will say what we like about you. Until next week when we're talking to somebody else, possibly something else, definitely. You will take care.
Have a great week, everybody.
Take it easy, everybody.